This was ground zero for government's latest project to bring down buildings illegally constructed on Nairobi's riparian land. But as the demolitions continue, key questions are emerging. Just how much of Nairobi's riparian reserves have been encroached through illegal construction? Just how far is government willing to go to reclaim this land? And if this structure in Kileleshwa was brought down because of its closeness to the river, then what about the apartment block right next to it? What about the rest of the buildings on this lane? What about the rest of Kileleshwa? And what about the other neighborhoods of Nairobi? Tonight, we seek those answers. This is Special Assignment. We've enlisted the help of top urban planning, spatial planning, and land law experts to help us understand the concept of preserving riparian land.
The riparian land is that land that lies adjacent to rivers. It has got two implications: that it forms part of public land because the river does not belong to an individual. Even if a river passes through your land, it remains public land and you can never privatize it. You can never go to the upper part of the river and block it and say it will not pass over my land or so.
It is not by accident that Mombasa Road follows where it follows, that Ngong Road follows where it follows, that Thika Road follows where it follows. In fact, it is specifically because of the riparian. It's cheaper. You'll see Mombasa Road basically runs parallel to the Ngong River. Thika Road runs parallel more or less to the Madari River, and Wayaki Way runs almost parallel to the main Nairobi River that passes through Kawangware. Yes, so because it's very expensive to do infrastructure that crisscrosses these rivers, especially if you don't have a lot of resources.
The Environmental Management and Coordination Act provides guidelines for protecting riparian reserves and provides that rivers have a protected zone of twice the river's width, but that certain specific rivers be allowed a protected zone of 30 meters from the highest watermark of the river.
Most of the rivers of Nairobi originate from the Ngong forests area, the Dagoretti area, the Kileleshwa area, and this area, the highlands of Nairobi. And this is a lowland area. And you are required, because the river actually widens as it continues meandering around the lowland areas, to provide a 30-meter buffer, to provide a 30-meter riparian.
We're relying on satellite imagery and our own footage from the skies to analyze the extent of encroachment on riparian land in some of Nairobi's neighborhoods. The blue line represents the river as it cuts through different properties, while the yellow line shows areas where the 30-meter buffer zone should be respected.
The buildings representing the industrial area are really constructed very close, exactly at the edge of the river. And so whatever discharge and whatever functions that this river was supposed to be performing are really affected by the industrial discharge that is coming from these industries, because the distance has not been kept, and it is really difficult to manage any effluent or any solid wastes, any metals that come from these industries. If this was to be done well, then this building should have obeyed this line, the yellow line. That should be the building line that they should have observed, and this one should have gone high.
The main Nairobi River, the Kericho Ndogo and Kericho Kubwa, the one that comes from Kawangware, in Kawangware is infringed by informal settlements. Then it gets into the Kileleshwa area, and a lot of people don't even know there's a river in the Kileleshwa area, because there's a huge infringement on that particular river. You only realize that there's a river there when now you come to the Boretum and near the university. That's when the river pops its head out, because a lot of it has been infringed by development of flats and so on.
The roof in blue here is the just demolished Shell petrol station, the Kileleshwa Shell petrol station, with the other blue there being the Java, but the building that is the former Kileleshwa petrol station was actually evidently right within the riparian land. I don't know if NEMA would decide that they give 15 meters instead of 30 meters, but even with 15 meters, you would still see that the structure would have to be destroyed. And so 6 meters to 30 meters, but 30 meters is for major rivers like the Kirichwa River.
If NEMA was using the 30-meter buffer for Kirichwa River as is recommended by experts, then the data shows that the encroachment is likely well beyond the just demolished Shell petrol station.
Now, the practice of land grabbing in Nairobi in particular has been that the person given whose land is adjacent to some stream or some river encroaches onto public land by getting up to either the middle of the river to make the river smaller, or takes that part of the public land that is adjacent, that neighbors the river. Sometimes it is not even contained in your title document, but when you are fencing it, when you are doing your fencing and building walls, you actually go up to there.
This appears to be the case in the controversial Westlands area, where the river, though clogged up, can be seen cutting below Peponi Road but disappearing completely when it gets to UK Mall and Oswald Centre. If you follow the river flow on the opposite direction, it appears to be choked by the construction on Brookside Drive. Former city planner and Lands County executive in the last administration, Tom Odongo, says the problem begins with land allocation.
When land is applied by government through public allocation system, that allocation system or process should be informed by a planning framework that would define how the riparians would be in advance so that it does not become an accident. The situation you have is that even if now I ask you, can you go and access the riparians we are talking about, you would find that you have to look for a bridge somewhere to be able to have even a view of the riparians.
You may say that the buildings were approved. Again, approved in a corrupt manner. So once something is tainted with illegality, you can never come and claim justice. We always say in law, he who goes to equity must go with clean hands.
When you overlay the current satellite imagery with the latest data on land allocation from the Ministry of Lands, you'll see how areas clearly identifiable as riparian land have already been chopped up and allocated as private land. If these landowners choose to construct permanent structures on the riparian land, then the ongoing process of reclaiming riparian land may be futile.
We've discovered that lots of rivers, especially the seasonal ones, have completely been wiped away. They have been wiped out because during the times when those rivers were not flowing, people encroached and they subdivided. Lots of subdivisions that have happened, and people allocated themselves land and constructions have happened, and so those rivers are no more. You would only know that there used to be a river here when there are heavy rains, and then since it's a wetland, then it floods and people are moving out of their homes because of the floods.
To sort out Nairobi's problem, you have to plan it together with Kiambu, because as Kiambu, space in Kiambu is being developed, the amount of runoff that is coming to Nairobi is increasing a lot. So if you don't think about what is happening in Kiambu, you look at Nairobi outside Kiambu and Kajiado, you are not solving the problem.
It should be a lesson to us that don't let this not happen. Because it's easy again to the president goes and somebody comes back and says, look, and people will, that's when it will be populist. They will be coming up and saying, we want back our land. Now we thank this president for being humanitarian. It's really, what is the philosophy? Where do we want to go and how do we enforce it?
Uhuru should forget about the big four. This is the big one. Uhuru should focus on the big one. And if he cracks this out, together with corruption, big four will be a walk in the park.
The experts have their varied opinions, but as the demolitions continue, Key questions that still linger can only be answered by those with a master plan. What criteria is NEMA using to demolish these structures? How far will the demolitions go? What policy framework is guiding the process? And what next after the riparian land is reclaimed? In the end, the story is there from the skies. Nairobi retells the history of this Kenya's development, and the choking river tells its own story through its dimming reflection. Asha Mwilu on special assignment.